Okay, so in the next challenge, what we are basically doing is making sure that this text here renders onto our screen. So if we go into our app.js, this home starting text is what we're trying to render. And the way we did this was actually pretty simple. So all we did was go ahead and do our res.render. And the first argument is looking for the home.ejs file. And by default, the first argument of res.render will look into a folder called views. So after that, we went ahead and we declared, or we set the variable that we were going to be looking for called home starting content. And inside of our home.ejs, that is exactly the variable that we placed in here, home starting content. And we wrapped it inside of the EJS templating symbol. Not sure what this one's called, but if we look at our tags and we go over here, we see that the tag is right over here. So it outputs the value into the template. So HTML escaped. So when we do that, even if we change the name to home, and we won't change the name here just to show that we will get an error. Once we reload, we get the error. But once we go ahead and say this is connected to home, and we reload, everything works correctly. For the sake of simplicity, I'll just go ahead and name it the same thing as the variable, and this should just make it easier to follow. And another thing I could do is go ahead and do the object literal short syntax, if that's how you say it, and we can just say home starting content. And we know the key and the value are going to be home starting content. Okay, so for the third challenge, we went ahead and we separated our header from our footer and we put them into different files. So going back to the EJS documentation, this is how we would do that. We would output the unescaped value into the template. And to do this, we went ahead and we put our header inside of header.ejs, and this is linking to Bootstrap now. This might change in the future. And then we also, we're also linking to our CSS page, and then we're also linking to our zebra icon or favicon. And then our footer.js, we went ahead and we had a footer padding class to a footer, and with text saying made by Nelly is dev, or made with love by Nelly is dev. I'm stuttering so much. So basically now in our home.ejs, since this is our home page, we could go ahead and create a div surrounding the content, and all we had to do to make this work was to include the header. And what happens when we take away the header is that the page, while still works, doesn't work on the bottom here where it says made with love by Nelly is dev. So when we put our header, which has all of our style sheets and our Bootstrap class, once we reload, it should work as expected. And that was it for challenge number 3. And one thing that's important that I left out is this navbar we are also getting from the video. This might be subject to change in the future, but we went ahead and we created this with Bootstrap, or it was provided to us in the video with Bootstrap. And these are just the Bootstrap classes that create this navigation system. Okay, so back for challenge 4, it was pretty simple. All we had to do was create a folder called partials, and this partials folder is going to contain our partial files. So basically files that aren't entire web pages, like our header and our footer. And basically all we had to do for this was go ahead and set our partials folder / the headers so that the include method could get the header from the correct directory instead of just saying header and footer, and the page would just break because it's not going to the right directory name to load up the header and the footer. Okay, so the next part of the video, she wanted us to go ahead and create our about and our contact page. So when we go up here, we should be able to say /about and we should be able to get our about page. And the way I did this was by making another get method. So basically we're going to say app.get/about. So when we get the query of /about at the end of our local host, we want to go ahead and respond with res.render, and we want to go ahead and say we're looking for about.ejs. Remember, this always goes into the views folder and grabs whatever file we place, and we want to go ahead and append about content, and this about content is right here. And then if we go into our about.ejs, it's also right here. So that's how we know we're rendering this into the screen. And we also included our partials header and our footer, meaning that we do not have to copy and paste any code into the header or the footer in our about page or our contact page. So if we go to our contact page, it'll go ahead and load up with the correct text. And the text is different because right here we have contact, connect content, and then we have about content. And if we go into our app.js, we have about content and our contact content, which corresponds with two different strings, meaning that although this text seems like randomness, it's not. It's actually these two strings that are placed down here, and we're getting them through res.render and using the shorthand object literal syntax to grab them instead of doing it the long way. And that's pretty much it for this challenge. Okay, so challenge 6 kind of was a bit confusing, but I was able to figure it out. I was just reaching a route incorrectly. So basically what we had to do was make sure that the home, about us, and contact us links were working. And of course we would do this inside of our headers or header.ejs. And what I was doing was I was trying to link the page directly by saying /home.ejs, and of course that was not working. Instead, I had to reference it the way we are getting it from the app.get method. So to go to our about page, it's /about. So that means all I had to do to make this about link work was go into the header.ejs and say /about. And now this href will go ahead and add this to the end of the localhost 3000 link. Same thing goes for contact and home. And that was it for challenge number 6. Okay, so I messed up my recording, so now I have to do it manually. And we basically just did challenge 7 and 8. So I decided to just put this into the next cut. So basically with challenge 7, what we were supposed to do was create this compose form. So inside of our compose EJS, maybe I explained this, I'm not entirely sure. I just went ahead and created a container with a form. The action is going to /compose, and it's going to be a post method. And our post method is going to take an input, and the name of it is going to be add post, and that's how we're going to grab it with body parser. The autocomplete is going to be off because we don't want any autocomplete, and the type is going to be text, meaning that it's a text box. And then our button is going to have a name of button. This is going to be more important in later videos, I believe. And then the type is going to be submit, and it's going to be a publish button. So basically now we can take the name from this add post input, and inside of our app.js, we can make an app.post request. So that means now we're making the post request that we're getting from this form, and we're basically going to go to the compose directory, and then we're going to request and respond. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the post and equal it to the body of the body parser. So require body add post, and I'll show you why here in the developer tools. So if we go to the network, we see that when we go ahead and type something in, let's say test, we get some data passed to us. And if we can check it out, should be in the payload, we get something called form data. And as we see, the form data is inside of a variable called add post. So when we go ahead and if I can get back there, when we go ahead and require the body, so body parser body, and the add post, we're grabbing what's inside of that variable. So what's inside of that variable is test. So once we put it inside of the post variable, when we console log it, we'll notice that it appears here. So it also says test right here. And then we want to redirect back to the compose page after we submitted the form, just so that we don't just go to a new page, because we're not going to res.redirect and we're not going to res.get or send file. We're just going to make sure we redirect back to the same page that we're on. All right, so moving on to the next part of the video, we were basically told to just make this compose form, and we were told to make it with the Bootstrap, but I went ahead and just made it with regular CSS. Honestly, I've been noticing that writing regular CSS is just, I don't know, just easier for me, and just I know what I'm doing and I don't have to remember utility classes, but I feel like that's why I want to learn some Tailwind. So anyways, in my compose EJS, I went ahead and created a form container, and it's going to have my compose h1. One thing I can do is put this out here. Let me see how that ends up looking. Nah, I'll just include it in here until I go back and make all of this look better. So basically, my form is going to have a action of /compose, the method post, and I added an input, but now there's a text area. And the text area works really similar, if not the same. I didn't even have to research this, as the input, and it's basically just going to take the name, and that's how body parser is going to go ahead and reference that text area, or in this case, the same thing as the input. So basically, we went ahead and we created this form wrapped in this div, and our buttons still the same. And then some of our styles. I'm using var colors because the theming of this page may change as I do new things. And we're basically using flex, of course, and then made this into a column. We aligned. This doesn't even matter anymore. Yeah, that doesn't even matter anymore because we're just aligning it to the top of the page. But I'll just leave it there anyways. Our width is going to be 80%, and that's just for the mobile screens, because the max width it'll grow to is 800 pixels, meaning that if we go bigger, it will not grow past 800 pixels. But when we go smaller, the width will stay at 80% of the screen. So that's for the smaller devices. And one thing I can even do is make it 90%, but I'm not worried too much about the CSS right now. So we have the padding for both of the text areas and the inputs. We have the button, added a little bit of border radius just to make it look nice. And then our form, we went ahead and made it a display flex and then flex column, just making it line up correctly. If we take it off, it will not be in a column anymore. And then in our app.js, we went ahead and we created a new variable called title. And title is going to be an empty string up here. And then we get to reference it down here by saying request the body, so body parser, and then the title body, which is the name of this input. And then the same thing with the post body. And then we console.log the title and the post. So what we get here is if we go post 2, and then we go, this is a test of the post, and we go ahead and publish it, we get post 2, this is a test of the post. And if we go post 3, and we say testing 1, 2, 3, and we publish, we get post 3, testing 1, 2, 3. So I kind of went ahead on steps. I don't think she asked us to do this yet, but if in the next video she says go ahead and make it work, then I will just skip over that and go on to challenge 10.
All right, so we're back. Just woke up, but we'll continue tackling this. And all we basically had to do was put the post inside of an object. So the post is this compose page here. And then we grab we requested the body parser title body and the body parser post body. And in our compose, we see that the post body is the post text box or text area, and the title is the title. So if we say post 1, this is and we go ahead and publish it, we get it logged out. And I think I already explained this, but just for another explanation. All right, so in this challenge number 11, I was basically asked to go ahead and take the posts or the post object, and we wanted to put this post object into an array called posts. And then we wanted to go ahead and log out that array in the app.get of the home route. So basically we use the global variable to go ahead and store the values that we get from compose and redirect us to the home route so that we can log it out. If we would have put the post inside of the post app.post, or in this call, we wouldn't have been able to use its values globally. So what I went ahead and did was I grabbed the posts. So I think I could even say let posts or just posts. It doesn't really matter. And I equaled it to a cloned array. So I'm using ES6 here instead of the .push method. And what this is basically saying is posts equals a new array. So our original posts array equals a new array with the spreaded in posts from the old array. So if I already had a key value pair in here, like let's say, well, yeah, if I had a key value pair in there, it would go ahead and clone into the new array or the new spreaded array. I don't want to waste too much time. And then what I'm basically doing is that for the second argument, I'm throwing in post here. So that's how I know that these two values will be placed in here after the array has been cloned and spreaded. So we can go to compose and we can make a post. And when we publish, we get back to the home directory, and down here we get an array with our object of our title and our post. And if we do one more and we say post 3, post 2, and then we say this is JavaScript ES6 and we publish, we go ahead and we get a new array of 2 objects with post 1 and post 2. So I wanted to do this in ES6 because it's just more modern, and I'm not sure if we still use the .push method, but that was it for challenge 11. Okay, so challenge 12 was kind of weird. I didn't really know what she was asking, but what she basically wanted us to do was go ahead and move our posts array into our home.ejs. So all we did was console.log the array of posts and then included it in our res.render home EJS. So now not only are we including the home starting content in a paragraph tag, we're including the posts, but instead of putting it in a paragraph tag and getting object, we just went ahead and console.logged it. So when we go back here and we compose, say post 1. Here is the first post, and we publish. You see that we get it down here, post 1. Here is the first post. So that's it for challenge 11. All right, we're back with challenge 13. And what we were asked to do was to go ahead and console.log the titles from all of the posts. So if I say nodeman app.js, we're running our server, and we basically want to go to our compose page and log out all of the titles onto our home.ejs page. And the way she asked us to do it was with the for loop, but I just think this looks really dated, and I just thought I could use the map method instead. So we're going to grab all of the posts from the post array. We're going to map over that array, and each post that we're getting, so each object that we're getting from this posts array, we're going to console.log the title. Instead of saying for count equals 0, count will be less than the post array length, and then we'll increment the post array once every time, and then we'll console.log the post count title. These two things do the same thing, but this one just seems so much easier to read, and especially just explaining it out loud. So if we go ahead here and we say day 1 and we publish, we get day 1. If we go back to compose and then we say day 2 and we publish, we get day 2. And then if we compose and then we get day 3 and we publish, we will see that on the first one we did day 1, second one we did day 1, day 2, third one we did day 1, day 2, and day 3. So that was pretty much it for challenge number 13. All right, we're back. And I skipped some challenges because challenge 14 was just going over the for each loop, which I didn't use in my app. So I just watched that video and then moved on. And basically we have some exciting things this challenge. So I was able to go ahead and make sure that these render to the screen. So everything we compose should now load up on our home screen. And the way I did that was, one, I went ahead and wrapped this div in a post container, and this is just all the information. So the home, and then that information, the day 1, and then that information, day 2, and etc., etc. And the reason why I went ahead and did this was just to add a little bit of padding. It was looking a little bit rough, and we basically just grabbed our post, we mapped over it, and each post, so each specific post, will go into a H1 where we'll grab the post title, and a paragraph where we'll grab the post. And if we go back to our object in app.js, we can see that our app post method on our /compose route is going to be the title and the post. And then, of course, the request body parser title body and title post, which is the name of the forms that we have here. So with the title body and the post body. So when we go to /compose and we go ahead and say day 4, and then we can grab some lorem ipsum from over here. We can paste this out. What's going to happen when I go ahead and publish this is that, again, we are going to map over the post array, since day 4 and this text is going to be added to the post array. And then we're going to grab the title, day 4, and we're going to grab the post, this lorem ipsum, and we're going to put them in their corresponding H1 and paragraph tags. So I know it's probably not the best to use in H1 because we already have an H1, but I'm just doing it for completing the challenge. I will probably go in and fix all of this towards the end of it. So let's go ahead and publish.
And when we publish, we see that we get day 4 added. And that was it for, I think, that challenge. All right, so we're back for challenge number 16. And what she basically wanted us to do was to use express routing. And the point of express routing, as I have here in some documentation, is basically to be able to get to new parameters in our URL and load up a page without having to make an entire app.get for every single page. So if we wanted to make a page, like let's say for our first post, so we want to click on the post and it gives us a page of that entire post. Instead of creating a new page for every post, like app.get about post 1, post 2, post 3, we can use parameters to go ahead and say, let's get back a topic. And it uses this weird little colon symbol. So when we go to /posts and then /topic, and this topic is a parameter, so it can be whatever we want. Let's say post 2, we're going to go ahead and console.log the params, so the parameters from the topic that we went ahead and put into the URL. So when we go ahead and click enter, we see that we get post 2 here. And what this is basically doing is it's creating a route so that we can go ahead and, I'm guessing, load the post on that exact route without having to create 500 pages for 500 different posts. All right, so we're back and I am on challenge number, not 7, I think 17. And basically this one wasn't too difficult, but there was a few things that kind of confused me. And I kind of just wanted to go over some of those things. So first of all, what we were trying to do here was grab a route. So this route we created was through the express routing parameters. And basically what this allows us to do is have this parameter of post title. And then we can reference that parameter inside of our URL after the localhost 3000. So that's why we have the params keyword here. So basically we're going to request the params from the post title. And the post title is coming from this URL. So when we say /posts/ and then after this slash comes this post title, which is a parameter, and we can place whatever we want into it. So we can say hello. And when we go ahead and execute it, we see that we get returned hello down here. So basically what we did was we put this statement or this parameter that we put into the URL into a variable called requested title. So hello is now part of the title, the requested title. So now we have request params post title. We have hello that we rendered out, and it is now placed into the variable called request title. And then we're going to go into our posts array. And inside of our posts array, we want to say for each individual post, and we know that is an object of a title and a post because we get our posts from each different post. We're going to go ahead and store the post title from the object, the post title, into a variable called the store title. And then we're going to say if the store title is equal to the requested title, we found a match. So as of right now, we didn't find a match because we didn't compose anything yet. So if we go and compose and we say this is day 1, and let's say hello world, and we publish, we see that we get day 1. So now if we go ahead and go to posts and then day 1, so realize what we're doing here. The day 1 is the parameter here, this post title parameter, and that's going to equal to the requested title. So day 1 is equal to the requested title. And now the stored title is referencing day 1 on the DOM because we're grabbing this from the post object title. So now that day one is the store title and day one is also the requested title, we should see that we have a match when we go ahead and click enter. So yeah, we have a match found because the day one corresponds to both the URL parameter and also the post that we created on the compose page. All right, so we just did challenge 18. We're getting to the end here. It's really exciting. And challenge 18, or we're on challenge 19, but challenge 18, she basically had us go ahead and go to this site called Low. And basically this site is just a documentation site on how to use Lodash. So what Lodash allows us to do is to use these dash symbols instead of having to say post slash what to do now. Okay, interruption there. So yeah, instead of having to write it out, what Lodash does is allows us to go ahead and do everything in lowercase, and I'll show you how this works right now through the documentation. So if we say what to do now, we still get a match found. So how does this work? So we went ahead and we installed Lodash, and it's inside of our dependencies. So if we look into dependencies, we get Lodash, and basically the documentation is telling us, we go to Lodash, it's basically telling us that we have to require it. So to load the full build, we go ahead and we require Lodash. Now they are using this underscore or Lodash symbol, and I think I just kept it just for simplicity. Even though we could say Lodash and use it this way, I think this kind of just makes it more known what we're using. When I just see this, I just kind of read Lodash. So basically we went to our app.get and our parameters, and we're still console logging the post title. So that's what we put in, what to do now, inside of our URL. And then we went ahead and we said the const request title is going to be underscore dot lowercase. And if we go into the docs here, we can see that this is a parameter or a method that they give us to go ahead and turn everything to lowercase. So when we go here, we see that the dot lowercase method is taking this string and it's converting it into this. It's taking this string and it's converting it to this. And then it's taking this final string and it's converting it to this. So it's basically taking every string and making it lowercase. And one thing I was wondering is, couldn't I just use two lowercase? And I guess I maybe could, but the only difference is that now we can use these hyphens between every words to represent the spaces. So now our requested title, or what we put into this URL, is going to be to lowercase. So even if I do uppercase, it won't matter. It'll still convert it to lowercase. And then our store title is also going to be to lowercase. So each post title, so each of these post titles, no matter whether it's uppercase or lowercase, as we see here, this is uppercase, so the post title is uppercase, it will be converted to lowercase using Lodash. So now when we compare the store title, or the title over here, and the requested title, or the title in the URL, we will see that we get the match found even if we do uppercase or lowercase. So if we go posts slash and then what to and then do now. Not sure if this will work. Let's see. What to do now. We didn't get the match necessarily. Okay, what to do now. Let's go posts slash what to do now. And of course, this isn't following the same kind of convention because this W is not capitalized. This T is not capitalized. The D is not capitalized, and neither is the N. But either way, when we go ahead and log it, we will see that we'll still get a match. It's not showing it on my end right now. I will check that out right now, but either way, it's a match. All right, so we get to continue here, and we did something pretty cool here. So now, not only when I make or compose a post, can we see it on our home screen. So let's say day 4. This is the 4th day, and publish it. Not only do we now get it on our home screen, but we can go ahead and reach the posts parameter. And then we can say day 4. And when we do that, we get our separate post by itself loaded onto a different page. So there's a few moving parts here, and I just wanted to explain it. And I think we are on challenge number 20. So 2 more challenges, and then I get to just have fun and just mutate the absolute hell out of this project. So first of all, what we did was we got our post.ejs page. And our post.ejs page is basically taking a post title and a post body and putting it into an H1. Very simple. Now in our app.js, instead of saying if store title is equal to the requested title and console.logging we have a match, we're going to res.render the post page. And remember, the post page res.render is basically going to go into the views folder, and it's going to look for a file called post, and that's right there. And then we are going to go ahead and get our post title, and our post title corresponds with the post title that we put in H1, and the post body corresponds with the post body that we put in the second parameter, which is going to be an object. Very basic EJS. So we're basically going to say the post body is equal to the stored title, which is basically the posts array being iterated over and grabbing the post title every single time. And the stored body is going to be the lowercase post. Should probably name that something else, but it's just the post. So the body of the post. So this is the 4th day. And what we're basically doing is we're loading up the page with these 2 separate parameters, loading up the stored title and the stored body. And we can go ahead and remove this console log here. But something that I want to do is, after I'm done with the project, I want to create a 404 page or just create a post not found page. And then I also want to add a feature that when we go ahead and we click on the post title, we can go ahead and open up the body or go ahead and open up that post itself without having to write it up here in the URL. So that's a stretch goal, but on to challenge 20. All right, so challenge 20 was really, really weird. It took me a little minute to figure it out because I was just like, what? My mistake was I was looking how to trim a JavaScript string, but I was doing it down here in our params get method. So I was trying to trim it inside of this for each, but then I was like, wait, that doesn't affect anything that's on the home screen, because all of this is doing is rendering on the post method or the /posts, which basically just opens up the post EJS. So I was actually just shortening the body in the page that I want to show everything, which didn't make a lot of sense. But what I was able to do was go ahead and leave that alone. And instead, when we render out our posts and we go here and we map over our post and each post title, we get the post title. And then when we get the post, so the actual post, I really need to change the name of that. So we get our post, what we basically did was slice it. So now we get from the 0 place in the string, so the beginning, all the way to 100. And then what basically happens is that we basically, after that, we just write ... and that's just letting the user know, hey, it's longer than this, but this is all I'm allowing. And I put this in a template literal string, and yeah, Challenge number 21. I'm really excited actually. All right, so we are done. And this last challenge I could not figure out. And it turns out I was just overthinking it. I was just trying to do, I thought it was more complicated than it really was. So it's actually funny. I was like, okay, it's the last challenge. It has to be super complicated, but in reality, it was super, super simple. So all we had to do was make this href, and then when we click this read more, we just had to open out the page. And all we literally had to do was write the route posts, and then go slash, and then take the post title from up here and put it into the second into the or after the forward slash, and this basically just represents this slash and then the day whatever. So yeah, I really overthought it. Didn't have to overthink it like that. And when I seen the solution, it was quite hilarious. So what I was trying to do, I was like, so how do I get it from the parameter here? Or I was just trying to get it from, doing like, I was trying to like open post and then posts dot map. Like I was just doing more than what was really required to answer it. And yeah, quite a silly mistake that I made. And I was just like, all right, I'll just look at the solution. So, I mean, up to this point, I don't think I really looked at any solution, or at least I browsed over it just to make sure I was going in the right direction. But the project was pretty easy. It wasn't too difficult of a project. I understand all of the moving parts and I can explain it. And I can replicate it. If I was to build this again, I could definitely replicate this. But instead of replicating, what I'm going to do is kind of just make this into my own diary. Right now, it's kind of just like her diary, kind of like all her CSS styling. And some of the CSS is actually really weird. So, this reloaded the whole page. But in some of it, like this header or this footer here, doesn't stay at the bottom of the page, and that just really annoys me. So that's one thing that I'm going to try and fix, and then just a number of other things, but that's pretty much it. Those challenges were pretty fun, not too difficult. I was able to figure it out in the end, just with this little dumb little typo that I made here. Made me have to go actually look at the answer. But other than that, pretty good project, and I had a good time making it. And one thing that I wanted to add in is that I had to keep on coming back and stop record and coming back and start record, because my OBS messes up when I allow it to sit there. So then the keywords or the key presses don't work anymore. But anyways, I'll add some CSS, make this project my own, have some ideas in the future for other projects that I want to build. Probably won't be using EJS just because I'm not sure if EJS is something that is still used. But other than that, really fun project.